ukulele. This is the closest thing I have. Am I an alcoholic? We have to talk about Colleen Ballinger. Massive trigger warning for grooming and sexual assault. Colleen Ballinger is a YouTube musical comedian famous for her character Miranda Sings, a character who is supposedly based off of making fun of narcissistic theater kids with no talent. I've received a lot of requests to talk about the possible ableism of her character Miranda Sings since I started TikTok, but I had honestly never looked into it because I'd never heard of her. The character of Miranda Sings started around 2008 on YouTube, and despite being a theater kid and her target demographic at the time, it never really was on my radar. That was around my I'm not like other girls phase, where I didn't watch anything that really had women in it because I hated other women due to my internalized misogyny. So I constantly was watching like College Humor or Smosh. I never even heard of her until a few months ago when I started making these video essays on autism and media. And then I started hearing of her again this week when suddenly everyone wanted to know my opinion on Colleen and the character of Miranda Sings. You see, recently Colleen's name has been circulating amongst TikTok, but shot straight into mainstream conversation when, in a wonderful example of the Streisand effect, she herself brought some extremely bad stories into light by grabbing up her ukulele and singing a song about accountability, and how she's not taking it, and apologies, and how she's not doing it. Sound confusing? Yeah, that's because it is. But really, what is it that Colleen is accused of? There are multiple stories coming out about her right now, and I'm going to do my best to summarize them, but I highly encourage you to listen to the stories from the survivors themselves, and also, please leave them some kind words. Speaking up about these things, especially when there is such a large power imbalance, can be extremely risky and scary for survivors.
So this message was posted into the Discord last night, and it says, "We currently have a team getting ready to SWAT your house. Your address is located and threats will be sent. Go against Colleen and this is what'll happen to you, twink. If I could and didn't live so far away, I would brutally murder you by stabbing you 45 times in your anorexic chest, you fat, ugly."
They are literally speaking their truth to power in this case, given that most of them are not content creators and are still under the age of 20. Also, keep in mind as we go through this discussion, my day job, aside from being a content creator, is that I am a counselor advocate for victims of sexual assault and domestic violence. It's literally my job to know about things like grooming and what the signs are. And I unfortunately have the lived experience of being a survivor of it myself, so I know the harm that it can cause victims. So, with that said, let's talk about Colleen. Let's get into the many accusations of Colleen Ballinger because there are a lot. This is one of a few accusations that Colleen herself actually addressed when a lot of these issues started coming up 3 years ago, right around the time the pandemic began. Old videos from her and her sister way back in 2006 started to circulate of her darkening her skin and singing with a Hispanic accent in order to make a joke about Mexican people.
I crossed the border, I went to Borders, and then I read a book on how to make my look.
Colleen herself admitted to this, knowing that it was racist, but it's okay, we shouldn't hold her accountable because she has grown.
And the characters are completely based on racial stereotypes. It is not funny, and it is completely hurtful. I am so ashamed and embarrassed that I ever thought this was okay. I was a sheltered teenager who was stupid and ignorant and clearly extremely culturally insensitive. Racial stereotypes are not funny. They are not a joke, and they should never be joked about.
And all the white people clapped. You see, according to most of my fellow white people, the fact that she was admitting to her previously being a racist in one video meant that she had grown.
And suddenly, he wasn't racist anymore.
It was the first time we'd ever seen a racist admit it and hold themselves accountable. But here's the thing, as one TikToker, Hannah, pointed out in her own multi-episode TikTok, Colleen never got around to all the communities she harmed with previous racism acts, nor did she go so far as to even delete them.
But now let's go ahead and take a look at what I found on the Miranda Sings channel.
This is my pet, Squanto. Ay, Chichin, yo quiero Taco Bell. Shh, don't speak, Squanto. I'm hungry. Good news, I caught a turkey, so we're gonna eat it together and call it Thanksgiving. You can give me the scraps to Squanto. Spanish is easy. Yo quiero Taco Bell.
That's a stereotype.
La cucaracha, la cucaracha, la que no se
No, ya no puede caminar, which means...
Not a kind of man.
No offense, but she takes things really seriously. You think just because you're speaking in Asian, I won't know that you're dissing me?
Many of Colleen's previous racist videos are still public on the Miranda Sings YouTube account.
No, you just don't get it. Miranda Sings is intentionally a bad person as a character. Colleen's not racist. The character Miranda is as a joke.
Here's the thing. When we as white people make characters who are jokingly racist, what are we doing except spreading more racism? We're not speaking truth to power. We're not making an act of rebellion. When we make characters that are racist, we're just saying, hey, isn't it funny how we as white people are racist? It's not funny, it's just racism. That's not to say that no one can ever make jokes about racism. After all, humor is how many communities deal with community trauma. Mel Brooks has made an entire career out of making fun of Hitler. Inside a marginalized group make jokes about their own oppression, that in and of itself is a transgressive act of speaking truth to power. When you are the power, you're just pointing out that you can do it and face no consequences. And that in and of itself is pure white privilege. The fact that Colleen has had these videos up and available for 3 years after being called out for her racism with no comment, no apology, no nothing, shows that her initial apology wasn't actually an apology. It was just smoke and mirrors to get people off her back.
Are you sorry, dear? Sure, I'm sorry. Sorry I got caught.
She didn't feel bad that she was racist. She felt bad that she got caught. So, like I said before, I have never in my life watched a single video of Miranda Sings until I started doing research for this video. And after having watched them, wow, okay. Wow.
Wow.
I am definitely not the first one to say it, but the fact that the character Miranda is depicted as a person with sensory issues, a strict routine, speech impediment, and a lack of understanding of social cues.
So come to that if you're in New York City and you're a fan, not haters. Don't come, because that doesn't make any sense and you're just rude when you come, so don't.
It's autism. It's autism. She's playing a caricature of a person with autism for laughs. She's not the first or the last comedian to do it, but what I find most disturbing about this version of making fun of autism is the constant over-sexualization of women's bodies.
This is porn. This is porn. This is porn. This is porn.
Like, maybe I'm just new to this content, but every clip I've seen so far of her bringing up people onto the stage to do the whole "this is porn" bit, they're all women. Why? Not only does this perpetuate a stereotype that all people who behave the way Miranda does, you know, autistic people, are asexual, but it also states that we're completely repulsed by the idea of sex and other people's bodies, which is a very harmful stereotype dipped in the infantilization of autistic people. And also, why are most of the people that she brings up for that children?
It's porn.
Like, most of the people look underage, and sexualizing children, stating that the way they're dressed is porn. You see how that's weird, right? Comparing a child to anything seen in pornography is weird. Like, that's quite literally the sexualization of children and the pinnacle of rape culture. And on top of that, there's full-on skits where she brings children on stage to have them do things like reach into her pants to eat cheese puffs.
Do you want a cheese bone? I'd love them. I can't believe I'm reaching in there right now.
Or spread a young girl's legs, all while doing her signature lack of understanding of social cues with her speech impediment. Whether she did it intentionally or not, and purportedly it was intentional, as someone came forward on Twitter stating that Colleen told them that she based the character of Miranda Sings off of an autistic cousin of hers. But these skits perpetuate a harmful narrative that autistic people are dangerous people to have around your children, when really we're not. We're human beings, and these kinds of stereotypes affect us and continue to harm us. Like, seriously, it feels like with these kinds of characters, we just can't win in holistic society. You guys are always going to see us as incompetent children or dangerous. This is especially harmful given that autistic people are 3 times more likely than non-disabled people to be the victims of childhood sexual assault. Something that, once again, I not only know from my day job, but I am myself a survivor of childhood sexual assault. This whole character not only makes a mockery of autistic people, but it then throws harmful things that we are likely to be victims of back in our faces. It is absolutely shameful and disgusting. And with that said, let's get to the biggest accusation against Colleen. In 2020, Adam McIntyre released a video describing the harmful nature of his friendship with Colleen. He started off as a fan of her character Miranda Sings, but as fans sometimes do, he met Colleen on several occasions and the two developed a close friendship. She confided in him when she was going through a divorce, got ideas for skits from him for Miranda Sings, and there was even one point where on a live stream she jokingly sent him a lingerie set that she had bought from a thrift store because it was hilariously ugly. All of that sounds like fun, quirky fan stuff, right? Normal friendships. Except here's the thing. She was 33 at the time. He was 13. She sent a child lingerie. It does not matter that it hadn't been worn. There is no reason an adult should be sending a child anything like that. And also, having a child, a literal child who you don't know and are not related to, be your support system while you're going through a divorce is not okay. If she were his parent, which, mind you, she is old enough to be, I would call this parentification, but she's not even related to him. It's just a breaking of informality that is part of the grooming process. Another part of the grooming process is, ironically, this whole sexualization of minors thing that I mentioned earlier. One of her former fans, Oh No, It's Bex, came forward about a moment at a live Miranda Sings show that she went to, where Bex was called up onto stage to do the yoga challenge that involved Miranda, a whole adult, spreading this underage girl's legs as far apart as she can, only for Miranda to fart on her. There was no reason that you needed to put a child in that position to make that joke. And while Bex does not describe the incident as sexual assault, she does describe it as,
but as someone who has been sexually assaulted, this situation gave me that same feeling where it feels like you need to purge and like clean out your insides. You know, just that nasty, gross feeling.
As if both of those stories weren't enough, Adam and other survivors, including Johnny Silvestri, shared their stories about being in group chats with Colleen, where she would instruct them to put tampons in their mouths, ask for Adam to send nudes, and Photoshop a picture of an underage Johnny's face onto a naked picture of Trisha Paytas. Now at this point, if you're saying anything along the lines of, but it's a joke, she wasn't being serious, one of the other methods of grooming is actually, shockingly enough, joking. Her intentions don't matter here. She engaged in literal grooming of children. Hell, photoshopping a child's face onto a naked Trisha Paytas is enough evidence in and of itself that that sort of relationship dynamic is grooming. If it had been like 1, maybe 2 times of accidentally being inappropriate with your underage fans, hey man, we get it, accidents happen. But when this many people come forward about the ways in which her conversations with them left them scars, that's not an accident, that's not a mistake, that's not being quirky, that is being a predator. These accusations started resurfacing earlier this month as more and more survivors from her group chat continued to share their stories, and for a while that's all it was. Until Colleen decided to do the unthinkable. There is no trend more entertaining for many people than the YouTuber apology.
Press pause for a moment and even just for 10 seconds, just cover this in prayer because there is so much healing that needs to take place.
Oops, I got caught doing a problematic. Please accept my tears as currency while I absolutely change nothing and still continue to profit over my apology. I honestly think we all knew it was coming at some point, especially given the last time Colleen did a YouTuber apology, she was actually commended for the way she took accountability, or at least the white people were commending her.
I'll be the racist. Well, not anymore.
But I don't think anyone was expecting this.
I'm sorry, I didn't realize that all of you are perfect, so please criticize.
I think the mood she was going for was somber? The other day, Colleen released a 10-minute long, clearly pre-written and pre-rehearsed song claiming that she's taking accountability, but literally nowhere in this song does she actually take any sort of accountability. She says the words, "I made a mistake," but then also claims that everything is just rumors and lies about her.
All aboard the toxic gossip train.
She claims that she made a mistake, but really wants you to know that she's a good person still, despite, grooming multiple children and sexualizing them in her shows, and far worse.
Sometimes people make a mistake and it doesn't make them a horrible person. Whoa.
Throughout this video, she does her best to really minimalize the experiences of the survivors of her behavior.
And I'm not a predator, even though a lot of you think so, because 5 years ago I made a fart joke.
She didn't groom kids, she just overshared like the weird aunt. So honestly surprised she didn't say weird uncle, given that that's a running joke in Miranda Sings that her uncle is a pedophile. Colleen, let me tell you, I have 9 nieces and nephews, and I am the weird aunt at family reunions. Being the weird aunt is being the one who gives a 2-year-old a Dorito because I didn't know it was bad. Being the weird aunt is taking the nieces and nephews to Disneyland just so that I have an excuse to go to Disneyland. Being the weird aunt is teaching my 10-year-old stage combat because he wanted to be able to pretend to beat up his little brother to freak my sister out. It's still kind of funny, I'm not gonna lie. But I have never once asked any of my nieces and nephews if they're virgins, or what their favorite sex position is, or asked them to put a tampon in their mouths. Not socially awkward like the weird aunt, Colleen. You're grooming people. In my day job, we have to deal with abusers quite a bit, and this apology was unsurprisingly a very common form of non-apology from abusers. Just like she says in the video, she is going to continue to textbook gaslight her fan base. I mean, she basically admits to everything else, why not also admit to that? There's a specific poem called The Narcissist Prayer, which personally I would rather call The Gaslighter's Prayer, as to not alienate people with narcissistic personality disorder, but it goes as follows. That didn't happen. And if it did, it wasn't that bad. And if it was, it's not a big deal. And if it is, that's not my fault. And if it was, I didn't mean it. And if I did, then you deserve it. This 10-minute long farce of a YouTube apology makes a mockery out of the survivors of Colleen's grooming and directly makes a joke about the trauma she caused them. But yet Colleen wants you to know that she's still a good person.
Sometimes people can make a mistake and they're still a good person.
She just made one repeated mistake several times without correcting her behavior. She's not a bad person. She's human. Yeah, she's human. She's a human who groomed people. What really baffled me about the video, and it really speaks to the nature of someone who has an obscene amount of social power and entitlement, was where she started describing how everyone should have been nice in the ways they corrected her behavior.
Sometimes people can make a mistake and you can kindly let them know and help them to grow.
This is a common tactic that we as white women will often use when being called out by marginalized people. It's a tenement of white supremacy culture called the right to comfort. It states that you can't listen to the ways you harmed people unless they say it to you in a nice way. You need your feelings protected over the people you actively hurt and traumatized. People you hurt do not have to respond nicely to you when you have hurt them, especially if they are still young and actively going to therapy to recover from the hurt you caused them. This wasn't the video I intended to put out this week, but with the constant requests of asking me if Miranda Sings is an ableist character, and my passion for supporting survivors of sexual assault and domestic violence, I felt like this video needed to be made. The fans of Colleen Ballinger deserved to have a safe space where they were protected. I know she states her character Miranda Sings is PG-13, but when she actively brought up children younger than that onto the stage to make sexually themed jokes, like having a 9-year-old eat cheese puffs out of your pants, or actively sexualizes minors by referring to their outfits as porn, at that point she knows what she's doing, and she knows she can get away with it. No more. This is not cancel culture. This is survivors risking it all to speak out against someone who traumatized them. To all of Colleen's fans who feel betrayed, I am so sorry on her behalf. You deserve to feel safe and protected in your fandom. The only one at fault here is her. And to the survivors of Colleen's abuse and grooming, I see you. And you deserved so much better from someone you loved. She was the adult. You were the child. She was the one responsible for maintaining healthy boundaries. You did nothing to cause or deserve this, no matter what mindless fans say. I won't say to ignore the hatred, because that's practically an impossible task, but I will tell you that no matter what anyone says, you know the truth. You know what happened, and no one can ever take that away from you, no matter how hard they try. Hey, so this was once again another serious topic on this channel, so if you at all feel triggered by anything that was discussed today, please do not hesitate to text HOME to 741-741. They are a team of crisis counselors that can help you work through any emotions you might be feeling that might be overwhelming for you. If you'd like to support this channel, please give it a like, follow, and subscribe. Also consider donating to my Patreon. These kinds of videos take a long time and a lot of emotional labor, especially when they're on heavy topics like this. And it's just nice to know I'm appreciated. If you cannot join the Patreon at this time, that is okay. Liking and subscribing and leaving a comment, all of that is free. Please do not forget to give the love to all of the survivors of Colleen's grooming, as many of them have faced tremendous amounts of hate since coming forward about their stories. Coming forward with a survivor story is extremely hard and vulnerable thing to do, even when your abuser has no power. And the fact that they are coming forward about somebody who has millions of followers, that is terrifying. And they need all the love and support they can get. Please let me know if there are any other pieces of film and media that you'd like me to talk about, whether it's autism related or feminist related. I can do both. I'm very skilled that way. I have two looks, autism and feminism. Until then, I hope to see you in the next video. Have a wonderful day. Bye!